In the future, new advancements in technology allow humans to enhance themselves with cybernetic parts. A company known as Honka Robotics, which is funded by the government, is taking this one step further by transplanting a human brain into a fully synthetic body. The first patient to go through this procedure is Mira, who wakes up in the lab and only remembers drowning. Dr. Ulit, the scientist in charge, explains that her parents were killed in a cyber terrorist attack and Mira's body was heavily damaged. Her brain was fine though, meaning that while her shell is synthetic, her mind and soul, which Ulit calls the ghost, are completely human. Mira then begins having a panic attack and must be sedated, so Ulit goes to talk to Cutter, the company's CEO. Cutter wants to use Mira as a weapon, not caring about Ulit's protests against the idea. A year later, Mira is part of the Counterterrorism Bureau Section 9 under Chief Aramaki and has reached the rank of Major. Today's mission consists of watching over a business meeting between Honka's representative Dr. Osmond and an African ambassador, who are being served by geisha bots. From her spot on the roof, Mira notices that a group of men in black force their way into the building and begin killing people and robots alike. Since her co-worker Bato hasn't arrived with the backup yet, Mira decides to ignore Aramaki's orders and go in anyway. By using her body's special cloaking device, Mira appears invisible as she jumps through the window just in time to find the geisha bots attacking every person in the meeting. In the shadows, a mysterious man known as Q's is controlling the bots and ordering them to hack into Osmond's mind. With great speed, Mira destroys all the men in black and the geisha bots, and one of them tells her collaborate with Honka Robotics and be destroyed before she shuts down. When Bato arrives with the rest of the team, he notices Mira got her arm wounded, which almost never happens. Later at home, Mira recharges her body and sees a hallucination of a cat, so she takes a special medicine that keeps her brain from rejecting her body. The next day, the team gets together to discuss what happened and learns that 3 more Honka scientists were murdered at the company's central laboratory. All of them showed signs of cerebral hacking, and in all the crime scenes this Q's guy left the same message: collaborate with Honka Robotics and be destroyed. After assigning each agent a new task, Aramaki scolds Mira for her recklessness and reminds her she's more than just a weapon. Bato and Mira leave together for their next job, but first Bato stops to feed his dogs. He wants to learn more about Mira's personal interests in return, but she admits her mind is nothing but fog. On their way to the labs, Mira sees a hallucination of a Japanese hut. A moment later, Mira meets with Ulit and gets her wound fixed while telling the doctor about the glitches she's been seeing. Ulit just deletes them from her memory and reminds Mira to take her medicine. Next, Mira and Bato go to see Dr. Dahlin, who has been working on the geisha bots to find clues. The geisha has been a Honka companion bot that someone reprogrammed for cerebral hacking. Her data was destroyed after Q's logged off her drive, so Mira decides to take a deep dive to see if she can retrieve anything. Bato reminds Mira that she would expose her mind to Q's, but she thinks the mission is more important. Dahlin connects Mira to the geisha's drive, and now Mira can see a data recreation of the night of the attack. As the images around her slowly crumble, Mira goes further inside and finds Q's looking at her own body. Suddenly Mira is surrounded by aggressive black shadows that represent Q's trying to hack into her. Dahlin isn't able to disconnect her because of Q's protection, so Bato pulls the wires by force. Luckily Mira wakes up sane and knowing Q's location. In the evening, Mira and Bato go to a Yakuza nightclub known for its black market merch. Bato is stopped by bodyguards and he pretends he's here just to drink while Mira finds a Yakuza and pretends she's here to buy merch. The men take her to a private room and handcuff her to a dancing pole. The boss can tell Mira isn't completely human and begins tasting her to make her talk while Bato realizes he can't communicate with Mira because her signal is being blocked. Since there are no clues there, Mira begins beating the Yakuza up with her great strength. Bato is approached by the Yakuza too, but when he hears Mira's commotion, he starts fighting as well. Once all the bad guys are dead, Mira goes into the back room and sees the hut hallucination from before, but this time it's on fire. After the glitch disappears, Mira sees Q's, who repeats his usual message before disappearing as well. As Bato arrives as well, Mira realizes this is a trap and pushes her friend out of the way before a bomb explodes. Hours later, Mira wakes up in the lab. Ulit explains Mira took most of the blast, but Bato still lost his eyes. While repairing Mira, Ulit discovers a bunch of glitches, and Mira admits they've been getting worse since the deep dive. Ulit is worried, but Mira swears the glitches mean nothing to her. Afterward, Mira checks on Bato and discovers he's gotten new cyborg eyes that give him new skills like X-ray. Meanwhile Cutter tells Aramaki he isn't happy about how much damage Mira has been receiving lately, but Aramaki reminds him he answers to the Prime Minister and not Honka. In the evening, Mira can't stop feeling weird about her own body because of the glitches. She decides to hire a street worker that is 100% human to touch her skin and learn more about how different she feels. At the lab, Dahlin is looking into the geisha's system and finds a file named Secure Project 2571. She's suddenly interrupted by Q's sneaking in, so she saves the file in a memory stick and hides it in her hand right before Q's kills her. The next day, Mira and Bato go check on Dahlin's murder and find the memory stick. Mira looks at the file and discovers a list of everyone who worked on a project called 2571. This is the information Q's had stolen from Osmond, and now he's killing every name on that list. Ulit is also listed, so Mira urges her team to find her. Meanwhile, Q's hacks into the brains of Lee and another sanitation worker to make them drive their truck into Ulit's car. Then they shoot the driver and catch Ulit when she's about to escape, but they're intercepted by the arrival of Mira and her team. Bato kills one of the workers, but Lee escapes by becoming invisible. Mira tracks him by watching his footprints on the water, and Lee suddenly becomes visible again when he reaches the river because Q's isn't controlling him anymore. Becoming invisible too, Mira begins to beat him up and Bato has to come to stop her from killing the guy since they need to interrogate him. Lee is taken to the team's headquarters, where he swears he doesn't know anything. It seems Q's has wiped his memory and Lee's brain created a new reality. Suddenly, Lee's mannerisms change, and the team realizes Q's has hacked into him again by using the lie detector. Once again, Mira ignores Aramaki's warnings and enters the cell cube to demand answers, but Q's only asks her to come to see him. The team manages to track Q's location and Q's disconnects, leaving Lee in such a bad mental state that he ends things for himself. Afterward, the team gets inside an abandoned building where they find dozens of people mentally linked in the same network. While Bato and the others begin beating people up, Mira goes deeper inside and discovers that the network is formed by the minds themselves. That's why Q's is so hard to find. Mira keeps looking around and sees the hut hallucination again. This time it's on fire and people are being dragged away from it. When the glitch disappears, Mira is attacked from behind, and after exchanging a few hits she gets tased into unconsciousness. Moments later, Mira finds herself hanging from a brain connection while Q's watches her. He explains that he felt something special when Mira connected her mind to the geisha and it made him realize he and Mira are the same. It turns out Ulit lied to Mira. She isn't the first brain in a synthetic body. Project 2571 tried the same procedure on dozens of people like Q's, and they were all discarded like garbage when the experiments failed. Myra's body is only successful because the doctors learned from their past mistakes. Q's managed to escape the disposal and now he wants revenge, which he sees as self-defense, but Mira still thinks he's a murderer. Then Q's disconnects Mira as he taunts her into attacking, but Myra's shots don't do anything. At that moment, Mira notices Q's has a tattoo of the hut on his chest. Q's doesn't know what it is, but the memory of that hut haunts him just like it does Mira. The so-called medication they give them actually suppresses their memories, so Q's wants Mira to stop taking it to find her answers. At that moment, the team bursts in, causing Q's to run away. Mira ignores Bato's calling and runs as well. Hours later, Mira shows up at Ulit's apartment and makes her confess there had been 98 failed attempts before Mira. Cutter brought the bodies and Ulit never asked questions, but she does know that the whole thing about Mira drowning and her parents' death were false memories they gave her to motivate her to fight terrorists. Hurt by this betrayal, Mira runs away and goes off the grid. Aramaki asks Bato to find her, and Bato takes a boat to the river because he knows Mira likes to go diving to leave the network signals behind. When Mira comes aboard, Bato assures her she can trust him and takes her back to the city. Meanwhile, Ulit tells Cutter that Mira knows the truth. At the harbor, Mira throws her medicine away. Then she finds herself surrounded by Honka guards that immediately arrest her and take her to the lab. When she's handed over to the scientists, Mira gets sedated, and she sees a hallucination of two desperate patients reaching for each other before she falls asleep. Moments later, Cutter orders Ulit to terminate Mira because she's a terrorist now. Ulit refuses because Mira isn't a failed model, but Cutter threatens her into obeying. In order to distract Cutter, Ulit gives Mira an injection, but she uses medicine instead of poison. Then she hands Mira an address with information about her past and allows her to escape. While Mira beats up every guard she comes across and leaves the building, Cutter kills Ulit as punishment. Afterward, Cutter meets with Aramaki and tells him Mira killed Ulit. Now he wants the team to chase her as the criminal she is. Nobody believes Cutter's story, so they'll have to make a plan. In the morning, Mira goes to the address Ulit gave her and finds the cat she saw in her hallucination. This cat belongs to Harry, who invites Mira in when she notices the cat surprisingly likes her. Inside, Mira finds a figurine of the hut inside an abandoned bedroom. Harry explains it belongs to her daughter Motoko, who died a year ago. The ministry sent the ashes and told Harry that Motoko ended things for herself, but Harry never believed it. Motoko had been a happy girl living in the lawless zone with her friends and writing manifestos about how technology destroyed the world. Harry admits Mira reminds her of her daughter, making Mira realize that her brain is Mokoto's. Overwhelmed with emotion, Mira runs away and gets in contact with Aramaki, telling him the whole story. Aramaki believes her, but they can't prove it because Ulit is dead. Hearing this makes Mira furious and she asks Aramaki to put the conversation on the grid on purpose so that Q's can find her. Aramaki promises to meet with the Prime Minister to make Cutter pay for his sins, and this conversation is overheard by Cutter as well. Honka guards are sent to kill Section 9, but Aramaki expects them and easily shoots them all down. Then he warns the members of his team, who act quickly and easily kill the guards too. Meanwhile, Mira enters the lawless zone, and her route is tracked by both Q's and Cutter. In an old alley, Mira finds the burned hut, which causes the memories to rush back to her. Honka guards came to arrest the rebels on purpose to stop their anti-technology message and gain some bodies for their experiments at the same time. Q's shows up and realizes he had been part of this too, and Mira points out that the graffiti on the wall that says Motoko and Hideo are their real names. Q's wants Mira to join him in his network and get revenge, but at that moment, a bomb explodes in the hut. Cutter sends a special tank to hunt the cyborgs down, and Mira immediately opens fire on it as defense. After exchanging a few shots, the tank makes the floor where Myra is standing crumble and the scanner announces she's dead. Then the tank turns on Q's, but before it can shoot, Mira reveals she's been hiding with invisibility and jumps on top of the tank to destroy it with her bare hands, causing her to lose an arm in the process. Q's asks Mira to come with him again, but Mira turns him down because she still thinks she belongs here. Their conversation is interrupted when a Honka helicopter shows up and Cutter's sniper shoots Q's. Then he tries to kill Mira too, but Aramaki sent a sniper as well, and with just one shot he makes the helicopter crash. Bato shows up and Mira promises both the Major and Motoko are alive together in her ghost. Meanwhile, Aramaki shows up at Cutter's office and with the permission of the Prime Minister, he kills Cutter for his crimes. Some days later, Mira visits Mokado's grave and bumps into Harry, who finally realizes who Mira is and hugs her, accepting her as her daughter. Afterward, Mira rejoins the team to continue working on keeping the city safe. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.